Hey guys, so last video we talked about knights and how to use them. And one of the questions that Krishnan asked was related to when bishops pin knights to the king or the queen and kind of what are your options in that situation. So I wanted to talk about this. This is a question that's been asked multiple times from lots of different people, and it's actually really common in chess. So I think it's going to be valuable to understand how to deal with this. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is that there's not going to be one solution that always will work in a situation like this. Like, well, you should always put your bishop in front to block the pin, or you should always attack it with your pawn, or you should always, it depends on the position. So the real answer is it depends. So I'm going to break this video into two major parts. The first part, we're going to talk about the 4 basic options that you have when somebody pins your knight. And then after that, we're going to move on and look at some other options that are maybe a little bit more advanced and more specific or unique to certain situations. We'll go through some example openings where pins happen and talk about some of the main lines and why they are the main lines. So yeah, I'll put timestamps below, splitting up the 4 basic options and then the more advanced ones so that you can jump around if you want to. But having said that, let's get started. Okay, so to start off with, let's just go with a very sort of silly example here, but let's just say immediately black plays bishop to g4, and they're pinning your knight. So obviously, if you try to move the knight, you lose the queen. Okay, so that's the pin, and we have to make a decision on what we're going to do. Now, at the very basic level, there are 4 things that you can do. So number 1, you put the bishop in front. This is, I think most people understand this, or if not, now you know. You put the bishop, and it's no longer a pin, because if you try to move this knight somewhere, the worst case, black will just take and you'll trade your bishops. Okay, you're not going to lose your queen anymore, right? So blocking with the bishop is number 1. And of course, if I flip this around and the pin is on the other side, pinning it to your king, you can also do the exact same thing, right? Put the bishop in front, and again, you can move this knight somewhere and you just get a trade. Okay, so that's the easiest way. It deals with the pin. You no longer have to worry about it. You can move your knight, and it's a little bit more defensive in nature, but there's nothing wrong with that, and that's an option that you have. All right, so here's a very similar position, but we've already developed our bishop in front of the pawn, so we can't actually block with the bishop to prevent the pin. So this brings me to option number 2. The other thing that you can do is defend the knight with your other knight. So the knight on the other side of the board, if you bring it over, it defends that knight. And you don't actually deal with the pin because you still can't move your knight, but you are setting up to recapture with the knight if you need to. And now at some point, maybe we can move our queen away, and then the pin will be gone. Okay, so this is kind of the second option. You can use your other knight if you haven't already developed it. Now, sometimes it's already been developed and this doesn't exist, but if it hasn't, you have that as well. All right, so the third option you have is to chase it away. So you push your pawn up, it attacks the bishop, and you're forcing your opponent to make a decision. Are they going to give it up for the knight, or are they going to either retreat back here somewhere, or what most people like to do, and unless they're just trying to trade it, that's one thing, but most people, I think, will probably go back here, and they're trying to just keep the pin and see what you're going to do, right? Now, this can be a setup to play g4 in this case, and then you've completely eliminated the pin and you've forced the bishop all the way back. You've gained a lot of space, and you've done it with tempo, so you didn't really waste time because both of those moves were attacking the bishop. So this is an option, which is fine, but you do have to consider a couple of important things. Number 1, you might not want to castle to that side of the board anymore because it is going to be open. And so if you were planning on castling kingside, then you might not want to go this route. Or sometimes what happens, right, is, let's just say this was the position for whatever reason, you already castled. And now, most likely, you're not going to want to do this because you've opened up your king, right? So keep that in mind when you're thinking about chasing it away. And the fourth option, let me go back to this position for a second. The fourth option you have is to kind of just ignore it. Like, just don't even worry about the pin. Continue doing what you're doing. So you bring your pieces out, you castle, you just finish developing, you do whatever you're doing. You just don't worry about it. You just ignore it. Just play chess, right? Pretend like it didn't even happen. Okay. Now, if you're going to do that, you have to watch out for a couple things. So number 1, let's go back to, like right here. Let's say you played knight c3. What's going to happen if your opponent attacks that knight again, right? Because remember, it's pinned. You can't move it. So if you're going to ignore it, you have to at least account for this, that your opponent might do this. And what are you going to do? And this is where you need to be careful, because sometimes you can really get into trouble because of things like this. So for example, let's say we're like, well, I'm just going to continue to ignore it and bring my bishop out. And let's say they take here with the knight. Well, you can't take with the queen or you lose the queen, so you have to do this. Now the bishop goes here, and now you might be getting into a little trouble, right? You're not going to be able to castle. Remember, you can't castle through check. You've got to watch out for this at some point in the future, this bishop coming in, maybe winning your pawn. If you, like, for example, tried to move your queen up, this could be a move. And black has kind of created some weaknesses in your position. You've got the double pawns, you've got the weaknesses over here. This might not be what you wanted, right? So this is what you have to watch out for if you are going to go the route of just ignoring the pin, okay? And so number one thing is, can the opponent's knight come in and attack it? If not, you're probably fine to ignore it. There's not really going to be much else. But if that knight can come in, you want to watch out for that. And here's one more example. Let's say that we have this position, and again, our strategy is, I'm just going to ignore the pin. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to continue developing here. What's going to happen now? Go ahead and pause. What's black going to play in this position? Well, if you said e4, you are correct. They're probably going to push their pawn forward, and now you're in big trouble. You're going to be losing your knight because you don't want to move the knight. Obviously, you lose your queen. But if you don't move the knight, they're just going to take it with their pawn. Okay, so this is another thing you have to watch out for. Sometimes the knight can come in and attack it. Other times, the pawn can push forward and attack it. And in these cases, you do not want to just ignore it and leave the pin. You have to do something. So in this case, probably bishop e2 would be a good move. Go ahead and break the pin now, because then if this happens, you're safe to move your knight somewhere. You don't have to worry, and you just get a bishop trade, which is fine. Okay, so remember, if you're going to go the route of ignoring it, which is fine in some cases, you just have to double check that there's no pawns that can push forward and that there's no other pieces. Usually it's going to be this knight that can hop in somewhere and attack your knight and cause you problems. Okay, as long as you've thought through those, ignoring it is a viable option. Okay, so we've talked about the four kind of basic options that you have. Number one, you block it with the bishop to eliminate the pin. Number two, you can bring this knight over to support it, and then you have extra support. You can move your queen away, and you don't have to worry about doubled pawns. Number three, you can chase it away by either with one pawn move, or sometimes you have to use two pawn moves if they go back, but you can do that, chase it away. And then number four, you can just ignore it and keep doing what you're doing. Okay, all right, now let's go ahead and move forward and talk about some more specific and maybe somewhat more advanced things, and we'll look at a couple of openings as examples as well. All right, so now I want to talk about the people who are so afraid of pins that they prevent them ahead of time. And this is not necessarily a bad option, but you can play h3 or you can play a3 ahead of time, right? Before the bishops end up going there, and then you don't have to worry about the pins. So let me give you an example of this, and just a word of caution here, right? Some people, for example, they might be thinking, well, I want to play knight c3, but I really don't like when the bishop gets there and it just really annoys me. So I'm going to play a3 first. Okay, and black says, all right, I'm going to develop to c5. And now the person plays knight c3, black plays d6, and then they're like, oh, I'd like to develop my bishop, but you know what? I'm afraid of this pin. I think I'm going to play h3 to stop the bishop. Okay, fine. Let's say knight f6. Now, you did do what you were trying to do, right? You prevented the bishops from going there, so you don't have to worry about any pins. But let's just think about this for a second. You're white. You get to move first, and yet you only have two pieces developed, and black has three pieces developed. Black is ready to castle, and the next move, probably bishop here, they're going to complete their development. They're going to be ready to do other things. You're still working on getting your pieces developed. It's going to take you at least 1, 2, 3, at least 4 moves to get all your pieces developed and castled. So this is the risk that you take when you do this. You kind of fall behind in development. And I think this is one of the reasons why you won't see these kind of moves a lot at the Grandmaster level. Occasionally you will, when there's a specific reason that they really need to prevent the bishop from going there. But in a lot of these sort of general, we're just getting our pieces out, we're starting the game off, you're not going to see too many Grandmasters playing these moves super early. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's not terrible, but a lot of times some of the other options that we're going to look at are going to be a little better. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is sometimes you have options to create some tactics on this f7 square. This is specifically when they pin your knight on f3. Okay, so let's just look at an example. This will be the easiest way to understand it. This is the Philidor defense, where black defends with d6. It's not super common, like more common is probably knight c6, but you can transpose as well. And bishop g4. Okay, so here we go. This is the sort of standard pinning our knight. What are we going to do? We have to watch out for knight d4, putting pressure here. We already have kind of developed our bishop, so we don't really want to go back and waste a move, right? So what do we do? Well, you can actually play h3. This is a really good example of when kicking the bishop away makes sense. And this is one of the well-known traps. Bishop to h5 is a big mistake for black. So if you want to pause the video, if you haven't seen this before, what do you think white should play here? And if you've had a chance to look at that, the best move is actually knight takes e5, which is pretty crazy because, of course, we are ignoring the pin. One thing I guess I should point out here is there's two types of pins in chess. There's absolute pins and relative pins. So absolute pins are when it's pinned to your king. You literally are not allowed to move the piece or it would be making an illegal move. Then you have relative pins, which is what this is. It's a pin. You don't normally want to move it because you lose your queen, but you are allowed to move it. It's a legal move to move this knight. So there is a subtle difference, and these relative pins give you the option to do things like this, which is a trap. If black takes this, you have bishop takes f7 check, the king has to go up, the knight comes in, and it's a beautiful checkmate in 8 moves. Okay, so this is one of the common traps in the Philidor defense, right, where you sack the queen and you get checkmate. And by the way, if you're wondering what happens if they just take your knight, let's say, you can take their bishop. And even though your bishop is hanging here, you actually have this move over here where you fork and you come out up material and you're just completely better. So that's the deal there. Okay, so this is a common idea actually. When they pin your knight on f3 to the queen, if your bishop is on c4 and you have the option to capture on f7, a lot of times there's tactics. Now, sometimes they look different. This is one particular one where you end up with checkmate. Another one that's pretty common is let's just say, let me see if I can fix this for a second. Yeah, so here's another position showing another example. So black has just made a mistake, knight to e7. What should you play here as white? And if you've had a chance to look at that, the move is bishop takes f7 check. So what we're doing is forcing the king to take us, unless, of course, they want to run here, which doesn't make sense. We got a free pawn, and they can't castle, so they probably have to take it. But then we have knight to g5, which is check, and it unleashes that queen, right? So remember, it was a relative pin. We are allowed to move our knight, and since it's with check, now it's black who's in trouble because the bishop is undefended. So they move the king somewhere, we simply take the bishop. Okay, so that's another version of this bishop to f7 idea. But you want to be keeping an eye out for things like that when they pin you on g4. Okay, this is very common, especially at the lower levels. A lot of players will overlook this type of tactic. Okay, so there's different ways. Sometimes the knight goes to e5, sometimes to g5. Sometimes, like the other trap we looked at, you move the knight first and sacrifice your queen. There's lots of combinations. You want to be on the lookout for that. All right, now I want to talk about one more thing that you should consider. So here's a position where black has just played bishop g4. And again, we have the question of, okay, what are we going to do about this pin? Now, if you were to make the decision, you know what, I think I'm going to ignore it, and I'm just going to develop this bishop, I don't really think that makes a lot of sense, because now you're giving black the option to capture your knight, and regardless of if you trade queens or not, you're going to end up at some point with doubled pawns, right? So even if you go this way, black can simply trade. And not only are these pawns doubled, they're double isolated, which is very, very bad. And so this is an example of a decision where I think, you know, ignoring the pin is not the right decision, right? Because you really don't want to end up with double isolated pawns like that. So in a case like this, I think you're definitely better off playing either bishop e2 or maybe knight here, something that's going to defend your knight so that you don't end up with those doubled pawns, okay? So if you are going to ignore it, ask yourself the question, what's going to happen if they recapture? Okay, let me give you another example of when it's okay to ignore the pin. All right, so here we go. We're going to look at the Nimzo Indian. So knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, and bishop to b4. So this is called the Nimzo Indian defense. And right away, we've got a pin on our knight. We have to make a decision. What are we going to do? And one of the main lines that white has is e3. Of course, there are other ways you can play this, but basically we're saying, go ahead. I don't really care if you take it. I don't really care if you bring the knight in and attack it, right? And why is that? Remember, this is one of the things I said. You want to double check this, right? Well, the reason we don't care about this is because we have plenty of options at our disposal to defend our knight. So we could play knight g to e2, defend it that way, and we're fine. We could play queen c2. I think this is probably more common, right? It attacks the knight, defends this way. And, you know, at some point in the future, we can kick this bishop away. And if they take, yes, we get doubled pawns, but a couple of important things. Number one, they're not double isolated, which is a big difference, okay? Isolated pawns, when they're doubled, are much worse than pawns like this, because this guy is actually still supporting him. If you wanted to move this forward, you could. It would still be supported him. You can still have pawns helping each other, even if they're doubled, if they're not isolated. So that's a key consideration, as well as the fact that you are getting the bishop pair, which is something, if you're able to open up the position at some point, that could be valuable, okay? So that's kind of an example like this opening here. Let's go back for a second. where you just ignore it. You don't worry about the pin and you just go about your, developing your pieces. You can play like bishop d3, knight g to e2, castle, and then once you castle, the pin is gone and now you're threatening to actually capture, and then black has to make a decision. So you don't always have to worry about that. All right, let's look at another example here. So e4, e6, this is the French, and if you play knight c3, this is kind of the main line. There's an option that black has called the winnower, and this is bishop to b4. And again, we see this pin on the knight, and the main line here is e5, c5, and now we actually are forcing black to make a decision. They can go back. It gets pretty tricky. We'll look at that in just a second, but the main line here is that they just take, and you get this position, and yes, you have doubled pawns, but again, they're not isolated, and that pawn on c3, sorry, is actually pretty valuable because it's helping out support this d4 square, right? You've got your pawn chain, you've got some extra space, it's lined up, you're set up for a king side attack, right? Remember, attack in the direction of your pawns. Queen can come out, bishop can come out, the knight's ready to go, bishop can probably come here, whatever. So this is a version of where, okay, we get the double pawns, but it doesn't really bother us. We're fine with this. We actually want to go ahead and eliminate the tension on our knight so that we can go about probably attacking over here. We've got our space advantage and we're going to just move forward, right? So that's why we like to play a3. And I said I would talk about this real quick. If they go back, you can actually play this move. It's kind of like gambiting a pawn, but the idea is you can play knight to b5 and you're taking advantage of this weak d6 square. Okay, so even if black captured here with check, you just play c3, you've got these pawns, it's defended, you're threatening here, you've got this bishop coming in, and yes, you lost some pawns, yes, it's kind of weird, but this is actually much better for white. This is a very good version of this opening for white, and usually black isn't going to play this if they know what they're doing. So, and this just kind of shows, like, it's not always so simple, right? Like, it's not always, okay, I better put my bishop and block the pin. Okay, I better attack it. Like, it just depends, right? So, some situations are different. All right, let's look at one more example from black. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5. So there's not actually a pin here because our pawn is there, but it's kind of the same situation. And this is one of those openings that's good to understand, right? So a6 is the main line. Why is this? Well, first of all, if they take it, even though we get double pawns, it opens up both of our bishops, which is great. We can develop them very quickly, very easily. We have the bishop pair, and there's a little trap. We don't actually lose the pawn because we have queen to d4, right? We're forking these pieces. We're going to win our pawn back, and we're actually in a better position, okay? So that's kind of the idea. So the main line when you play a6 is that they just retreat the bishop. And at some point in this Ruy Lopez, we will play b5. We'll expand on the queen side. We'll shut down that potential pin, and we'll just gain the space in the tempo. Now, usually the main line, you don't do it right away. You go knight f6, castles, I think bishop e7, rook e1, and then b5. But it doesn't really matter too much what order you play this in, right? But we shut down that, we gain space. And this brings me to another point. Remember when I said earlier, if you're doing this on the king side where you wanted to castle, you had to be careful? Well, over here, we're not planning on castling there anyway. Most likely we're going to castle king side, right? So we're totally fine expanding because our king's not over there. It actually makes sense. We get some space. We can put our bishop there if we want. We can push these pawns and attack on the queen side. So definitely a big difference than if this bishop were to come over here and we're like, okay, let's play h6 and g5, right? Well, our king's there. Big difference. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's important. Don't forget about that. All right, guys, so like I mentioned, there's not one solution that's always going to fix this problem of a pin on your knight. There's lots of different ways you can approach it. It kind of depends on the position, but hopefully I gave you some ideas to think through that will help you make the right decision in your games. If you have questions or comments or something that you think I left out, make sure to let me know. And as always, stay sharp, play smart, take care.